Now, if you'll remember from bifids and chiasms, much of Revelation is parallel. And we've already seen the leopard, bear, lion beast, and the beast with two horns. And the parallel B to that is the scarlet beast of Revelation 17. It's another beast. Now, the leopard, bear, lion beast tells us who. The scarlet beast tells us when. It's the same beast. Now, who is the scarlet beast? Well, you look at Revelation 12 and you'll read about the great red dragon. Isn't that a scarlet beast? Exactly. So you recognize who this scarlet beast is in Revelation 17. It's the great red dragon, the enemy, Satan. I'm going to be reading from Revelation 17, verses 1 through 6. And there came one of the seven angels, which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore. In the Old Testament, apostasy is always described as harlotry. So this woman is the fallen church, that sitteth upon many waters, many peoples. You read that from Revelation 17:15. With whom the kings of the earth had committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So they carried me away, and here's an important phrase, in the Spirit. In the Spirit. Once you see that, when you see that phrase, you recognize that the prophet is having a vision, and all visions are figurative. So what you read here is figurative. So he carried me away in the Spirit, indicating figurative language, into the wilderness, the Gentile nations. You read that in Ezekiel. And I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet-colored beast, compared with the red dragon of Revelation 12:3. So this beast is Satan, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and the abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. Millions of saints were killed by the Roman Church during the Middle Ages. No exact count has ever been made. And when I saw her, I wondered with a great admiration. Why wouldn't John wonder? Here is supposedly a great Christian church, and it is killing the true saints of the Lord Jesus. Revelation 17, 7 through 13. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carried her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. And the beast which thou sawest, here's the clue, was, in other words, it was before the time of John. We have to look at this prophecy from the eyes of John. We have to sit at John's time in John's shoes and recognize that John is writing this from his time. So this beast that was before John's time, and is not. So this beast is not during John's time, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. Satan was cast into the bottomless pit, so this is Satan, and go into perdition. They that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Rome is known to be the city of 7 hills. And there are 7 kings or kingdoms. We'll be able to show that these are kingdoms. You saw in Daniel, also Daniel 7, that it talked about 4 kings, and then the last king was identified as a kingdom. So these are kingdoms. 5 are fallen, 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was, is not, and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, out of the 7, from the 7, and he goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, or kingdoms, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. Now, previously in Revelation 13, when you saw these 10 horns, you saw them with crowns. But these kings don't have any crowns, so they're not going to be kings of kingdoms of countries or areas in the ordinary sense. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast, To understand this prophecy, we must stand in the shoes of the prophet. This prophecy was given to John around 95 to 105 AD, so Rome was the kingdom that is. The five are fallen are the kingdoms that had dominion over the known world, and particularly the Holy Land, before John made this prophecy. Kingdom in 7 and 8 are after John. Here's the graph. The first kingdom, Egypt, that controlled the Holy Land. The second kingdom, Assyria. The third kingdom, Babylon. The fourth kingdom, Medo-Persia. The fifth kingdom, Greece. The kingdom that was, during John's time, the kingdom that is, Rome. And then the kingdom that remained, one is not yet come, and it remains for a little while. Now, since the prior six are all kingdoms, we can't jump ship and say this seventh kingdom has to be a person. We have to recognize that it's also a kingdom to be consistent with the rest of this passage. So this seventh kingdom is a kingdom that remains a little while. Well, all of these prior kingdoms who ruled in the Holy Land ruled for a few hundred years. But this jihad, this first jihad, the Muslims ruled in the Holy Land from 639 all the way up to the present day. So he remained a little while. He remained more than these other kingdoms. And then cometh the eighth. After 1948 and 67, the Israelis again controlled the Holy Land, and the beast which was, he is not, as John says, and will come, he is the eighth. So we see now this new jihad, this again rising of a satanic power that is again trying to control, willing to destroy Israel, and trying to destroy Israel, and planning to destroy us unless God defends us. Since Rome is the sixth beast, the seventh beast that follows is composed of the Muslim states that controlled Jerusalem from 688 to 1967, just as history shows. This isn't any great imagination. By the way, there's something that we need to mention. Revelation 13, somebody might say, I'm not sure that's the Muslims. These day years, I'm not really sure that every one of those fits exactly. This scarlet beast, I'm not really sure that's Satan. But what you're dealing with is an empirical argument. When you put them all together, you can take any brick out of a wall and say, this brick isn't very powerful. But when you put this whole wall together, and more to this whole wall together, you get something that's very hard to tear down. And that's the strength of what I'm sharing with you, is that you're dealing with all these factors that all fit together, that all show you that the Bible prophecy is being fulfilled in 1948, 1968, 1967, 688, and so on. We can now see that we are in the end times, prophetically. Revelation 17:8, the beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go to perdition. And they shall wonder when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is, or and will come. If you look at the New American Standard, what do you see? This beast was wounded unto death when they were defeated at the Battle of Tours and at the Battle of Vienna, and the Muslims no longer tried to invade the Western world, and at that time generally Christian. But what do you see? This beast has come back to life now, and his deadly wound was healed. Revelation 17:10 and 11. There are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, one is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space, and that's a little time or a short season, 1,300 years. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is out of the 7, out of the Middle East, and goeth into perdition. The beast which was. Look at the Old Testament. This is the Old Testament era. I'm going to read from Matthew 4:8 and 9. Again the devil taketh him up into an exceedingly high mountain, and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world, and the glory of them, and saith unto him, this is unto Jesus, all these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. So here you see that prior to the cross, Satan had the control of the world's kingdoms. I'm going to read it again from Luke 4 this time, verses 5 and 6. And the devil, taking him, the Lord Jesus, up into a high mountain, showed unto him the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time. And the devil saith unto him, All this power will I give thee, and the glory of them, for that is delivered unto me, and to whomsoever I will I give it. So Satan had this authority. It was given to Satan in the Garden of Eden when Adam fell. But look at this, and is not during the Christian era, the very next phrase. I'm going to read from Luke 10:18. And Jesus said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning falling from heaven. Beginning of the Christian era. John 12:31. Now is the judgment of this world. Now shall the prince of this world be cast out. So you see, in the Christian era, we are now in the kingdom of the Lord Jesus. We in the church haven't done a particularly good job. Nevertheless, this is the kingdom of the Lord Jesus. Revelation 21 through 3 that people think is actually a millennium at the end of the age. It isn't. You have to recognize that this too, when you look at the chiasmic form, is about the Christian era. This is a parallel chapter to chapter 12. And I'm reading verses 1 through 3. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key to the bottomless pit. This angel came down from heaven, so it's the Lord Jesus, it wasn't Satan. And a great chain in his hand, and he laid hold of the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Now that word 1,000 there is not a single thousand. It's not kilios, it's kilioi, which is an indefinite plural. So it doesn't have to be just 1,000. It can be any number of thousands. And cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him. What? It's a definite thing that he couldn't do. That he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And what you see is in the Western world and in this country, the kings were brought to power and taken out of power, and countries were fought over religion, and they all knew that Jesus was the Christ. There was no argument that Jesus was the Christ until the 1,000 years was fulfilled. But now we see that there's less than 3% of the people in Europe that are still claim the faith, and there's not a whole lot more than that here in the United States today. And will come, the next phrase, and will come, the beast which was and is not and will come, is the end times. I'm reading from Revelation 23. Till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he, Satan, must be loosed for a little season. And if you have any question that Satan is loose today, you're not watching what's happening in the world. And Revelation 12:12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and to the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time, a little season. Revelation 27:9. And when the 1,000 years was expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. And if you look at what's happened ever since the Second World War, you look at the second jihad rising, you look at the spiritual conditions in our country, you look at the spiritual conditions in Asia, and you look at the spiritual conditions in Europe, there's no question this is being fulfilled right before our eyes. And shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth. Does that sound like it's happening today? Gog and Magog, which means confusion, by the way, to gather them together to battle. The number of them which is as the sand of the sea. There's 1.5 billion people in Islam today. And they went up on the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city, no question where that is, Jerusalem, and fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. That's the story of the scarlet beast, but it had 10 horns. Revelation 17:11. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into position. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings. They don't have any crowns, you notice. 1 hour with the beast. So these are going to be some kind of rulers, but they're not going to be great political powers, as we've seen elsewhere. These have one mind, and they shall give their power and strength unto the beast. We now recognize this beast to be Satan and satanic kingdoms. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. This is a picture of the whole world and of world economies. You may not realize it, but the world is divided into 10 economic groups. It is now, financially. The map of the regionalization of the world system is proposed by the Club of Rome. This same map appears in many multinational publications. However, Region 1 has now been modified to include, of all things, Mexico. That's what NAFTA is all about. It's a formation of these 10 worldwide kingdoms. Now, there's some that believe, and it may be true, that these 10 kings might be actually talking about the controlling economic people within the Roman Empire, and I can certainly agree with that. It's just that this is a rather interesting sidelight. The beast with 2 horns you've already seen. And he, 2 horns, doth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down out of heaven on the earth in the sight of men. No question about that. If you'd have been in Baghdad during both Gulf Wars, there wouldn't have been any question in your mind. And he, this 2-horned beast, deceived them who dwell on the earth by means of these miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the leopard, bear, lion, beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image or a likeness of this leopard, bear, lion, beast. You had the first jihad. It was stopped at Battle of Tours and the Battle of Vienna. But now we have a likeness with us today of this leopard, bear, lion, beast. That this beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast, this new jihad, should be killed. And that's exactly what they're doing. And he, this leopard, bear, lion, causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, and bond and free, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Well, how come we don't see the mark? If these Muslims all have it, how come we don't see that? We'll get into that in a minute. That no man might buy or sell, save he hath the mark, or the name of the leopard, bear, lion, beast. And what is that name? Islam. Or the number of his name, and what is that number? 666. And there are Islamic sites on the internet right now that will tell you that the Quran is 666, and that 666 is the number of Muhammad. So they claim it themselves. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the leopard, bear, lion, beast. For it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. And who can that man be except the false prophet of Islam? Now here's a picture of that situation. The leopard, bear, lion, beast controlling from 688 to 1967, the Crusades and the British Mandate. And he, the 2-horned beast, is in the presence of the leopard, bear, lion, beast. He did great signs in the presence of the leopard, bear, and lion, beast, those Islamic countries, and made a likeness of the leopard, bear, lion, beast, the Islamic beast. How did we do it? Very simply. We were so greedy for their oil that we sent them all our money so that they can arm themselves to fight against us. And he, the leopard, bear, lion, beast, put his mark on in their hand, and nobody, no Christian, can freely buy or sell without this mark in the Islamic countries. And the leopard, bear, lion, beast number is 666. Direct quote from an Islamic site. I'm quoting it, and I hate it. A matter of fact, I'm not going to read it here. I'm just going to put it up, and so you can see what it says. It's so blasphemous that I don't want to read it. Revelation was written about 500 years before Muhammad was born. And the Muslims themselves tell us their Quran is 666. In Revelation 13, we read of a great evil coming upon the earth, and a he who would have the number 666. Therefore, that he has to be Muhammad.